Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to another episode of Transfer Talk. Today we're going to be talking about another few of the developments in the transfer window over the last couple of days, particularly the updates and the futures of Danny Rose and Toby Alderweireld, and also the potential signings of Donny van de Beek and Hiroki Sakai. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do that now and don't forget to like the video. Thank you. First of all, we've received an update from Toby Alderweireld on his future at the club. As we all know, there's been a lot of doubt around his future over the last 2 or so years. He's made a lot of comments that has led us believe he was seeking a way out of the club. But in the last couple of days, he has reiterated his desire to stay at the club. He said he has a 1 year contract left, so it's his obligation almost to fulfil that contract and to play another year at Spurs. And he said he's really looking forward to getting back for a pre-season and working on another hopefully successful season at Tottenham. As I'm sure we all know as well, he has a £25 million release clause in his contract. His contract was initially scheduled to run out this summer, but the Tottenham board activated a clause in his contract that extended it by a further year. But unfortunately, it also added a £25 million release clause to the contract. Now, when we first heard that, we were kind of thinking, well, that's it, he's gone. At 25 million, he's a steal for the big teams in Europe. But I think him saying that he does plan on staying for the next year, even though, of course, we run the risk of losing him for free next summer if he doesn't sign a new contract, it kind of sends a message to not only the players at our club already, but the big clubs around Europe that a player of his quality and of his stature, if he's determined to finish out his time at Tottenham and to commit to the project that Pochettino is working on there, it kind of starts to bring us out of that reputation as a seller club. And, you know, maybe will paint us in a better picture in terms of we're a club that we're going to hold on to our good players. We're not going to sell them off when they get onto an age when their value might just be starting to decrease. And that might attract new players to our club as well, because they can see what's going on at the club. There's players like Alderweireld ready to commit to it. And it could be a really, really good thing for us, this transfer window. And hopefully we can use that to build. And I know we're going to be losing Ericsson. I'll be speaking in a second about Danny Rose. But hopefully we can build a team around what we have and the players that are committed to our club now. And there's no doubt that we can win trophies if we can actually do that. And it could be a really, really exciting couple of years for Tottenham. And hopefully there's going to be a lot more good news like this coming in the next few months. Now, Danny Rose has cast a bit of doubt on his future at the club after comments he made on Sunday after England beat Switzerland in the Nations League playoff. He said he doesn't really know what's going to be happening with him in the next few months, but if he stays at Tottenham, he'll be happy with that. But he'll also be happy if he leaves. And it's no secret that this summer Pochettino is hoping to improve those fullback positions. We've been linked with a number of players, and our players have also been linked with a number of clubs in terms of exits as well. But Danny Rose doesn't seem to know where he's going to be next season. He said he'll be sitting tight over the next few weeks and just seeing what happens. He also mentioned that reputation that Tottenham have of selling players on when they get to a certain value and kind of just being a bit of a selling club in all honesty, which I think is a bit... As a player who's currently at our club, I don't think he should have said something like that. And we all know the infamous newspaper interview he did last year, the year before, when he was criticising Tottenham's transfer activities and their style of how they deal with things like that. And for him to come out and do this a second time, obviously not as bad as the first time, but it doesn't really feel like he's a player who should be allowed to stay at the club. And I doubt Pochettino will accept for a second time that he's done something like this. And again, don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as bad as what he did the first time round. But I feel like after these comments, we have seen the last of Danny Rose in a Tottenham jersey, and it'll be sad to see him go. I mean, he's the longest serving player at our club at the moment, and he's obviously been there since he was really young. We've seen him develop as a player after a few loan spells here and there. And he was one of our best players there for a time, and it was him and Kyle Walker in those wing-back positions. And we were kind of unstoppable, especially that last season at White Hart Lane. So it will be disappointing to see him go, but I do feel as though this is the last we've seen of him. And hopefully we can bring in some players to improve that left-back position. Because Ben Davies is a good player, but I would personally put him below Danny Rose in terms of quality. So I hope if Rose is to go, we can bring in a few. Luca Digne from Everton's one player that we've been linked to. And he'd be a great signing, but I don't know if there's much truth in that. And staying on the subject of fullbacks, but switching to the other side, we've been linked with the Japanese right-back Hiroki Sakai in the last few days. It was Sky Sports News who released the news that we were very, very interested in signing him. He's a 29-year-old Japanese right-back, and he plays for Marseille in the French league. The only thing that seems to be a potential obstacle in this transfer is that the club are kind of reluctant to sign a player of his age. Because he's 29 years old, he's maybe past the peak of his career. He is a player whose style certainly would suit Tottenham. He's very, very attacking. He's a fast player. He can put a cross into the box. But Pochettino is kind of hoping to sign players, younger players, aged 23 and under. So it looks like he's kind of a backup deal for Tottenham if they can't sign a right back who kind of fits their profile more. Sakai could be a player that they fall back onto later in the transfer window, which seems to go against another one of Pochettino's wishes, which is that the transfers into the club will be done by the 8th of July when we return for pre-season training. So it seems to be a bit of a weird one in that sense, but at least there's something there that if we don't get our main transfer targets, we're going to get someone rather than no one. And Sakai could be a player who could come into the club in the last few weeks of the transfer window. And finally, a player that a lot of clubs in Europe are after, a lot of the big clubs, Donny van de Beek of Ajax. As we all know, he had a fantastic Champions League campaign last year. He scored Ajax's goal when they beat us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He's a very young player, one who's come through that Ajax Youth Academy, which is so famous for the players it has produced, and famous for the players that they've actually sent on to us in the last decade or so. The Dutch football expert Marcel van der Kraan was talking to TalkSport in the last few days, and he said Van de Beek's preferred destination is actually the Premier League, and the two clubs that he's looking into joining are Manchester United and Tottenham. So again, there's been nothing from official channels about this, but Van de Beek was asked about it himself, and he said it's kind of similar to what every player says in this situation, but he said you never know what the future holds. But he also mentioned that it is usual for Dutch players to move to a different country. So he's kind of opening a door there for if he does leave the club, it's not going to be much of a surprise. And I mean, it's something that Ajax fans are used to. They know their best players are going to leave. Frankie de Jong has already left this summer, and Matthijs de Ligt he's all but out the door. And Van de Beek will be an exceptional signing for us to make. Such a young player, and he already has substantial quality, and he's coming from the same place as Christian Eriksen, a very similar player to him, and he could be the ideal long-term replacement for Eriksen. It would be such a difficult transfer to pull off because every club in Europe will be interested in signing him after the season he had last season, after the season Ajax had. And I can't imagine the fee for him will be very small. I mean, it's going to be possibly a club record transfer for us if we are to sign him. I think it'll be a thing between him and Giovanni Lo Celso, like which player he might actually sign. And personally, I'd rather see Van de Beek in, because I don't know much about Lo Celso. I haven't really watched him play. But Van de Beek in the Champions League last season with Ajax, some unbelievable performances against Real Madrid, Juventus, and against us. So hopefully it is a transfer that we can pull off, but it doesn't seem at this moment that it's particularly realistic. So that's all we have for the video today. Please don't forget to leave down in the comments below what you think of the news that has broken in the last few days, and if you think Hiroki Sakai and Donny van de Beek will be good signings for the club. As always, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.